In this video, I'm going to walk you through real-time underwriting. So we're going to go through underwrite deals in real time, comp deals in real time. Now, the reason I'm making this video is I get hit up all the time from folks that are too cheap to spend money on their education and would rather go buy a deal or flip a deal and try to figure it out. And that's okay, but more times than not, I see that these deals are horrendous. People don't know how to underwrite them. They get themselves in a high-risk situation. So I'm making this video for free for those kinds of people to hopefully avoid that situation. Now, the one thing that I am going to share, it's beginning of 2025 in this video, we just released something pretty insane. So I'm going to be using Land Insights here to comp in the background. Not really a plug for Land Insights, but this is more, I don't know, maybe a gift that we're giving out at the start of the new year. My team on the Land Insights side is giving away 1,000+ free hot leads, okay? We will pick a market for you, scrub the market, give you the leads. It's pretty amazing. And in fact, if you go over here, you'll see this free market selection call. You can schedule your spot. We'll show you the platform in real time and give you the leads. Now, you'll find the link down below, but if you want to, it's landinsights.co/apply. I don't care if you are the most advanced investor under the sun or you're a brand new investor. 1,000 hot leads in a great market, pre-scrubbed with no junk properties on it. It's kind of awesome. So anyways, let's jump into it. I'm going to be going through and breaking down some deals out of our CRM. Now, I'm going to blur some of the stuff on the screen, right? I don't want to give away some of the deals that we might eventually contract. I also don't want to show people's contact information if they obviously don't want it online. So some of the stuff is going to be blurred on screen. Don't worry about that. You'll see pretty much everything else. And actually what I'm going to go through here are kind of old junk leads. You're like, why would we go through old junk leads? Well, I want to mine for value that maybe my team missed or maybe hell, even I missed it. And I've said this before, but if you're a new land investor, one of the easiest ways to cut your teeth if you don't have a lot of dough, call a guy like me up and say, hey, I want to go through and work all your dead leads. I've got thousands of dead leads, right? I say, cool, cold call, anything you get, I'll give you a little cut off the top and let's go do some deals together. And the beautiful thing is in that process, you're going to learn a whole heck of a lot. So there's gold in my CRM. There's gold in other people's CRMs. One thing too, I'm living here in Bali. Some of you guys might know the internet is really slow. There's a big storm moving through here today. So I apologize if the internet is slow. If things are slow to load or there's a little bit of lag, I apologize. Anyways, let's jump into it. So first one on the deck is this deal here from Janet. It's a 20-acre in Hardin County. We got this lead October 14th. We kind of hit a no deal situation on it. My team said they were asking for $800,000, which is a lot. What's interesting, my team underwrote this at about a $400,000 to $500,000 offer. Now, inside of Land Insights, one of the cool things that you'll see is they bought this 17 years ago. They paid $320,000 for it. They bought it, the estate of Peggy Ann Crowley. So they bought it from someone's estate. And it looks like if I go to the owner's information here, they are in state, in county, and in zip code. So they live very close to the property. Now, when I look at this property, it's kind of odd that someone would pay $320,000 17 years ago. But there's a couple things to take into consideration. There's some kind of structure here on it. This is like a little structure label that we have. You'll see our overlays here. This is one of the structure overlays. This might not come up, as you can see here. Might not come up in the data from the county. Assessor's information can be wrong on these platforms, or in some cases, it just doesn't even have a building permit, but we're still able to catch it for you. You'll see this yellow line here too. So, this one's kind of like funk, right? You've got legal access. You got this Deerbrook Lane here, but I don't love it. And if I was looking at this map just from like a bird's eye view, I might say this thing's got a sliver of access. I don't know what the quality of the physical access is going to be, right? Legal and physical access, two things that we take in consideration. But when you actually look at this yellow line, which is our road overlay, you can see that there's a driveway cut in here that you might not have otherwise caught. So there's a driveway leading to a cul-de-sac and then some kind of structure sitting on it. So that's an interesting nugget, right? And that might have been something that my team missed. What's funny is this lead came into our system before we even had the new Land Insights data platform. So we were using old tools, data tree, land vision, things like that. So there might be more value here than what my team initially realized. You see up here, so this is it says 20 acres on the assessor map. Our calculated acre algorithm actually puts it at 19, so it's just a little bit smaller. You can see here in this market, so for 20 to 40 acre properties, there's 11 that have sold in the last year and 183.33% in terms of a sell-through rate. And that's one of the really cool things about using the Land Insights data platform is it merges all of the Land Insights market selection data we have. And there's a really cool kind of meshing. Like when you find a market through the market selection platform, click of a button, you can export it. And then the inverse is true. If you're here looking at a deal or looking at a market, you can see all the market statistics within the data platform. You can see there's a little water feature just back here, some kind of pond. Topo's nothing that really scares me too much. Topo looks fine. So interesting looking deal. Now what we need to do is figure out what the heck is the thing worth. Again, I think it's interesting that they paid $320 17 years ago. One of the first things that I like to do before I even start looking at comps is I'll start looking at the adjacent properties, right? And see if I can find last sale dates on those. Now, again, these have structures on them. I don't see anything that sold recently, but I like to see what the adjacent properties are moving at. I talk about this all the time if you're inside of Leah, but the big thing for us is proximity, features, recency, right? That's how we go and base our comps. That's how we weight our comps. Now, 3 years ago, this sold at 250. It's got a little structure on it. It says it's 5.7 acres, but it looks bigger than 5.7 acres to me. Anywho, it doesn't look like there's a whole lot 37.5 18 years ago. Okay, so let's do this. We're going to come down here to this MLS comps tab. I'm going to go and put my criteria for the size range. So this is a 20 acre property. So I might say, hey, let's just look at like the 10s to 40s. I don't want to get bogged down with all the small stuff. So let's go take a look-see. And hopefully my internet's going to cooperate. This is when you start moving big chunks of data. So you'll see that now everything's tracking just for the 10 to 40 acres. If it's highlighted in blue, that means it's actively listed. So this is actively listed, been up for 194 days. It's listed at 9,400 an acre. Whatever, not really a special property, terrible listing. So it's not really something that I'd probably take in consideration. You got this 22 acre piece that did sell. It sold in 49 days and it sold at 412.9. So when I'm looking at this stuff, I'm like, how the heck did this thing move for what it moved for? I'm just surprised that this sold for so much 17 years ago. And so maybe there is more value to the structure because again, a lot of what's coming up here, these are not these are trading way less than what I would expect. And yeah, ours at 320 17 years ago. I don't know. Something's a little fishy about that. But I think there's more to consider with the structure, which on top of that, there's going to be more to consider with the improvements that go along with that. I can almost guarantee it's got septic, it's got a well, all that jazz. So this has been up for 227 days, 8 views. It says it's pending somehow. This might be a development property, proposed subdivision plan around the FEMA flood map. Okay, interesting. So this is listed at 800. Will it trade at 800? I don't think so. It's not a very nice property. This is a tough one. I'm not going to lie. And honestly, what I would tell my team and what I would do from here is we need to go and verify the structure on it and see what the quality of that is, because there's a real reason that this traded at 320 17 years ago. Because if it was just a piece of vacant land that was whatever 17 years ago, I mean, let's just do the math right now. Let's say things out here are trading for 12.5 an acre in that size range. So 12.5 an acre, what we're talking about, 250, 260 for this property. That's in today's money, but it sold at 320 17 years ago. There's more to the story, right? So I'm actually going to send a note to my team. More to the story here. Sold for 320K 17 years ago. I think that may be related. I really can't type when the pressure's on, to the value of the structure. Man, it's embarrassing. All in all, pretty nice personal. Although 800K is crazy. There's no way they're going to get 800K. But we might have been missing something here. I don't know. The last thing I'll say is, but 800K is crazy. Unless there's a gold mine on this thing. All right, we'll keep the show moving. That's a tough one. Anytime it comes to structures, really you need to go and understand the value of the structure, right? We're going to underwrite the land value, which again out here would be 12,500 an acre, something like that. But if we go and look at maybe 15 on a great day, if we look at the structure, it's like, how do we underwrite that without first knowing the condition? So we need to get either photos from the seller, or we need to go and get a realtor to walk the property, to get some more comparables to actually figure out what the heck is that thing worth. And then we actually want to go start pulling comps for larger acreage properties that have structures on them. I won't bore you guys with that right now. They're asking way too much. We might have offered too much. And the only reason I say, or too little, and the only reason I say that is, again, 17 years ago, 320. I don't know. Unless you got the worst deal of the century, something seems off here. All right, we've got a 64-acre tract out here. One of the things you'll see is, like, so when you come here, you can search by parcel or owner. I'm just grabbing the coordinates and popping it in. And inside of our CRM, I have our team always add in the coordinates to the custom field. So we always have it handy. I just find it's way faster to search via coordinates. Okay, funky little thing. Looks landlocked visually. Bought it for $20,000 24 years ago. He did buy it with a quit claim deed, which is concerning. Bought it from New Hampshire Acres Profit Share. It was an arm's length transaction, though. Cool. Okay. 750% sell through rate out here for properties of this size, which is crazy. And 30 sales in the last year for properties of this size. Now you'll see here, it's actually tagging that it has a structure on it, but I don't know, where is it generating that tag from? Maybe it used to have a structure on it. There's something burned down. That seems a little fishy. I don't know about that. Also, somehow the county assessed value is $439,000. What is this thing? A freaking gold mine? Now, I think what's happening here, and again, as you start getting into rural counties, this stuff comes up. And, a tool like Land Insights or fill in the blank data tool or whatever, if the county data is crummy or spotty, the data here is going to be crummy or spotty. And so what I think is happening here, the fact that we've got a structure tag and we've got this big assessed value, either there's an issue with the APN or something along those lines, or the county data is just off. I mean, there used to be a structure on the property that burnt down and the assessment hasn't been adjusted. Property taxes at almost $11,000 a year. So that just doesn't make sense to me. But something is wrong with the raw source data. And as you start getting into really rural states like Vermont, even parts of New Hampshire, I find it a lot in the Northeast, parts of the Midwest, parts of like West Texas and stuff. Like, the data is so bad. It's so bad. Like, APNs don't even pull up what they should. You got to use legal descriptions to reverse engineer values. So, yeah, it's just a reality of the situation. Like, to course correct and somehow remedy this as a data platform would be next to impossible. And so you'll find that in the more rural states, the base layer data is questionable. Now, what I'm going to assume here, let's say that there was a structure on this and this burnt down. I don't know. It seems like the only thing I could wrap my head around. Calculated acres is pretty much correct with the acres on the assessment. So I don't know, a little funky. Let's underwrite it as is, okay? Definitely someone's been accessing this property for sure, right? Bada bing, bada boom, bada bing. If we come over here, James N. Wood, someone's been using his property to access this thing. You got these utility easements back here. I don't really think anyone would be using this property here for access. There's a road that kind of snakes through it, but that just seems unlikely. So access is definitely in question. Perhaps there's a deeded easement. Maybe we'll assume that there is. If there isn't, you could try to get one. We'd have to buy this thing at a smoking hot discount. We could also try to buy James Wood's property. We could try to sell it to one of the neighbors. The problem that people do with these easement deals is they underwrite them as if, like, they underwrite it like, okay, I'm going to get an easement, right? Which is sure, fair. I want to assume you're going to get an easement too. Your strike rate might be 30, 40% there, but let's just assume you're going to. And so they say, well, I'm going to buy it at 50 cents on the dollar because once it has access, it'll be pretty much a standard flip. No. Even once it has a legal easement created, the physical access is still questionable. Like, going through James's property, this is not great access. So you have to compensate for the knock-in value. Now, the $1 million question that everyone likes to ask me, Sumner, what's the discount percent? It doesn't exist. Okay. The physical access can vary in terms of severity, and it can also vary in terms of what's in demand in this market. You might be able to get away with this because this is a giant property, which is obviously in super high demand out here. And so maybe the reduction in value or like the list price isn't as extreme. This also isn't the worst physical easement I've ever seen. There's already a road in place. So that's a big part of it. The other thing, though, is for you, right? If you're putting in all that work and you're being a problem solver and you're going and doing something for a seller that probably they wouldn't do on their own, almost guaranteed, you deserve to get compensated for that. So these easement deals only become enticing when we're buying them at steep, deep discounts. All right, let's go and look at some comps though. Let's just say, hey, show me like the 50s to whatever, 80s. There's not going to be a lot of comps out here, but let's go check it out. Let's go see. A little bit of wetlands on it. Again, nothing that really scares me. There's these other landlocked properties out here that look like are being accessed as well. So my guess is that this does have a legal easement and people, yeah, I'm imagining most of these do, especially if hypothetically, without doing deep research, hypothetically, if at one point there was access on this thing or there was a structure on this thing rather, we could be, that would do a pretty good job to validate that there is access. Looks like nothing's coming up for properties of that size, so there's probably just not that many out here. We'll have to slide it down and say, hey, show me the 30s to 80s. Again, I apologize for how slow my internet is. I promise Land Insights is the fastest data platform you've ever used. You can load 80,000 records like that. It's just this gosh darn internet in Bali. The irony is I pay for the most expensive internet out here, and yet it's still slow. There was one thing that I wanted to share with you guys that I thought was important, and now it's slipping my mind. Are there any comps out here of this size? I find that impossible to imagine that there aren't any comps of that size. There's a lot of rural rec land out here. That just seems highly unlikely. So I turned off some of the layers so it's easier to visualize here. There's really not many comps by where our property sits. In fact, you've got to go pretty far away to start finding stuff that's even in like remotely the similar size range. You got the 67 piece here, so the 12.5 an acre, took 45 days to sell. Looks like you got something similar here. These both look like they could be landlocked. Actually, looks like there's a lot of potentially landlocked properties out here. Again, this guy bought it for $20,000 24 years ago. Now, I'm going to assume that title's clean, even though he bought it with a QC deed. We'll see. Would definitely, obviously, close your title, get a title insurance policy, remedy any title problems if needed. So, crappy one, 72,000, 72 acres, sold $1,000 an acre. It's got this road intersecting it. Our property, in my opinion, is legitimately nicer. It's just this. And actually, I'm wrong. That's a utility easement. So our property is a lot nicer than this one. Here's where the road intersects over here. That's $1,000 an acre. Our property's light years beyond that one. This one's densely wooded, where ours has some clear kind of, I guess, pastoral areas, if you will, or just open spots on it. We don't have this disgusting power line easement running through the middle of our property, although we do have one very close to ours. And looks like this thing's got some topo. Got a little bit of topo on it. Would you look at that? Nothing too extreme. I like our property way more. And again, I'm assuming that ours has access as well. And ours also has a road that will take you to the interior of the property. Again, there's a lot of nuance to road and road condition and what it does to value. But what I found is if you have a road already installed, whether it's a county road that maybe intersects your property or just a private driveway or an easement or what have you, there's a road that gets you to the interior of your property easily. That's a big win. So ours does have that, even though the initial access point is questionable. All right, this one landlocked with an easement for sure. It looks like there's probably a road right on over yonder. 45 grand, sold at 34 acres. Okay, seems like we're kind of in the territory of what I would expect. 1,200 to 1,500 bucks per acre. Another one, this one does have road access, 62 Gs for 44 acres. 63,000. This is a nicer listing at 99,000. Even though it's still not that nice. I don't see anything about access here, but there's a road, so probably it's got access. 99,000, 63 acres. Cool. And the last but not least, the 66, 67, and 85. These are two adjacent properties. This looks like what might be called like a class 6 road, I believe is what they call these. So like access is not great, especially during the winter, and that's going to affect values. All right, so all things considered, what would someone put the money on this one? I mean, let's go back to it, take one more look. It's a pretty damn nice property. I'm saying somewhere in the ballpark of, I would say 80 to 90,000 is probably where I'd start the listing on this thing. You might end up shaking out 70, 75, assuming we've got access. You look at Mark's property over here, he bought that 20,000 bucks. That was also a QC sale. Interesting. So they were definitely involved in this as well, 24 years ago. Poke around in some of these properties, 52 acres, doesn't tell me anything. Too old. So look at this is 51 acres, 220 10 years ago. Now, this does have road frontage and maybe a small structure on it. I've turned off the building layers. You're not going to see that crop up. But anyways, it's a nice lot. It's right behind these developments here. It's a nice property, even with the questionable access. It's definitely nicer than Mark's over here. So my guess on this one, listed 80, 90, get an offer 75, 80. What did my team say on this one? Da 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 da. We didn't make an offer. Did they make an offer? Da 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 da. This guy didn't pick up the phone. I'm just gonna drop my team. Make an offer at 30K, 40K. Looks to be worth 80K or so, assuming access. And assuming that the QC deed is clean. Man, I really can't type when you guys are watching. It's quite embarrassing. All right, next, little 1 acre piece, little infill lot that slipped its way into our data set. Another New Hampshire chunk. Let's go look at this one. Why don't you? Beach Hill Preserve. All right, bought a year ago. Okay, 1 acre, bought for 68,000. Interesting. Bought it from Stanford Lynn. He's got a mortgage on it. You got a mortgage on it. Is that so? Maybe do a little subject to, huh? All right, 16 sales in the last year for properties of this size, 533% STR. That's pretty bonkers. Why did this guy pay 68 grand for this not very nice property? Was there something I'm missing here? Let's turn the building layer on. Does this have a structure on it? Looks like it does have a driveway coming into it. But what exactly am I missing here? And we'll just say, show me the comps. What am I missing here, guys? Show me the comps for the onesies and twosies. Something like this over here, this Chapman Road Realty lot, it's Carol A. White, or L. White, rather. Nice properties, right? Partially wooded, partially pastoral. I like this one more because it's got the pastoral section at the front, opposed to this one's flip-flop. From the lens of a buyer, this looks much better. I'm like, dude, did this Ryan guy buy an additional lot with it? I just don't understand why he paid so much for it. It's got a driveway, so that's cool. I'm guessing this guy paid at retail or maybe even over retail. I'm not really seeing the math on this one. Now, it is one of the last undeveloped lots in this little subdivision, so I guess that might mean something to someone. I'm going to turn the building layer off. But yeah, I don't understand. It doesn't look like there's a whole lot of comps out here either. All right, guys, sorry about that. I had to pause for a second. I'm telling you, this internet is so slow, it's making my blood boil. Anyways, all right, so 1 acre, we're looking at 1 to 3 acre comps out here. There's nothing even remotely close by to this, which I actually like. I like that. This is a high demand area. You've got a lot of turnover on these things, 500% plus in the last year, and yet there's no supply in this area. Nothing even active, right? And when there's not active, you're not going to have a lot of sales. People fall for that trap, but don't fall for that trap. If the surrounding county's booming, I guarantee you, unless there's something unbelievably terrible about Keene, New Hampshire, this is a supply issue, not a demand issue. I like that. I also like that there's pretty much like no undeveloped land on that street. So you've got one of the last undeveloped lots. So here's a 2 acres listed at 150, 70K an acre. This sold at 72,000 for 1.66. Let's see what's the quality like on that. I mean, it's pretty similar actually. Building pad, driveway. Yeah, pretty similar. I don't know if ours has any other improvements, septic well, whatever. I'm going to assume it doesn't. And that this guy just probably paid a little bit too much. So there's really not, I mean, look at we're not really going to be able to make him an offer that puts him in profit on this thing or even capturing his basis. So it's probably a lost cause, being that he paid retail and he bought it super recently. So there's really, I mean, we'd make him an offer, but what are you going to do, right? Now, do I still market to the people that bought recently? I do. A couple things. What if they inherited it? What if they have just a really low basis in the property? They just got lucky somehow. Imagine this guy bought this for 10 grand to make him an offer at 30. He might be like, yeah, that's totally worth it. Actually, I'm down. Um, the other thing too is that, like, you just don't know when distress is going to strike. Now, I don't think this guy has any level of distress and isn't looking to get rid of it quickly, but that does happen, and it's rare. It's a slim case, and it takes weeding through a lot of property owners, but that does happen. Life happens, plans change. Sometimes you get blindsided, and so bought it a year ago. Sometimes people have to move on, and they have to move on quickly and engage kind of a service like ours. But I don't think that's the case here. So what would I underwrite this thing at? I mean, to be honest, it's pretty damn close to what he paid for it. I think maybe he ekes out a wee bit more, maybe in like the 70s or so, 80s. These are trading. This one traded at 53K an acre. We got to remember, one, ours is half the size. This has got plans on it already. So our price breaker is going to be higher. Also, none of the comps that we looked at are anywhere near as desirable as being right smack dab in Keene, where there's no supply. So that works in our favor. It's 39,000 an acre. But yeah, I don't think we're ripping a huge gain on this one relative to what he paid. You might be able to pull off 75, 80K and probably get it sold pretty quickly. So I've got a bunch more to go through. I'm going to leave it here. We're almost at 30 minutes. If you guys enjoyed this, let me know. I like making these raw videos where I can get work done and then also share it in real time. Kill two birds with one stone. Again, if you guys want the 1,000+ free hot seller leads, landinvestor.co/apply. Hop on the call. We'll show you the tool. Like, we're going to give you a little demo. That's our ask. We're not going to pitch or hard close. But in return, you'll get 1,000 free plus leads in a great market, literally hand selected for you on that call. So I think you'll enjoy it. Take care of yourself. Wishing you the best year of your life. 2024 is going to be a great one. Talk soon.